Hey class, this is the intro lectures for, what are we in, week 4, fall 21. There's a tropical storm heading our way, Nicholas. Hopefully it won't do too much damage. Uh, and I say that, it didn't sound very sincere when I said that, but I'm quite sincere because I live in Houston and these things are very, very scary. I've been through a lot of these. It doesn't look as bad as it did last night, but you know, these things can turn ferocious. And so, as I said in my email to everybody this morning, I hope if you have family on the coast, if you're from the coast, um, just my best wishes. Let's keep our fingers crossed that this doesn't pour too much rain on us. Now, as far as Texas history goes, I have a map up, which I'm going to post on Blackboard, and take a look at it. And it's pretty impressive because you'll see how much territory in what's now the United States that Spain controlled from 1492 until 1821. 1821, by the way, is a date you'll be quizzed on. So suck it up. You have to remember it. It's the day or the year that Spain gets kicked out of North America. Spain survives in South America and Central America for about a decade more. But in North America, especially Mexico, and remember at this point, Texas is still part of Mexico, the province of Texas. 1821 marks the year that Texas goes from Spanish control to Mexican control. Texas goes from flying under a Spanish flag to a Mexican flag. Okay, 1821 key date. So I want you to take a look at this just so you can get a sense of the Spanish Empire. And it's always shocking, I think, how much of what's now the US that Spain controlled. All the way up to Northern California, into Nevada, Spanish Louisiana, and I'll talk about this, will become French Louisiana, which is purchased by the United States in 1803. So through a complicated set of negotiations, Spain gives up its portion of Louisiana to France. And then in 1803, France sells that part of North America to the United States. And the big picture for us is that after 1803, Spain gains a new and extremely dangerous neighbor, or Spanish Texas, I should say, gains a new and extremely dangerous neighbor, the United States of America. And just to pull back for a second, just note that within 4 decades, or really 3 decades, Spanish Texas, which will become Mexican Texas, will be an independent country, but by 1845, Texas has become part of the United States. So one of the things that I've talked a lot about in this class is that the importance of Texas as a buffer zone. Spain's very, very fearful that Texas is going to be lost first to the French. And now here are the Americans that have come onto the scene in 1803, and the Spanish had every right to fear the Americans. The US wants Texas. And the reason the US wants Texas is because of cotton. Because the Gulf Coast of Texas, the area about, I would say, starting from the Gulf Coast to about really Austin, is some of the richest cotton growing area in the entire continent of North America. And it's been virtually untouched in terms of farming. Indians weren't interested in farming. And the Spanish weren't really interested in developing much of a cotton trade in Texas as well. So Americans, people of the United States, beginning with Thomas Jefferson, they are really hungry for Texas, and eventually they'll get Texas. So it's all about cotton. Cotton is the major crop. It's the major global crop with the invention of the cotton gin. Cotton can be processed and manufactured much more easily. There's growing population globally. People need clothes. You need cotton for all kinds of goods. for all kinds of things. There's huge demand for cotton because of what you can make with cotton. And so suddenly, the way to think about this, and I say this in a couple of lectures, is cotton becomes the oil of the 1800s, and it's the commodity that's the most in demand globally. You have cotton manufacturing in Europe, especially in England, a little bit in France. You also have production of cotton, manufacturing of cotton in the US Northeast. So cotton from Texas in the American South is being shipped globally, and it's worth a fortune. It's worth a fortune. So anyway, so Spanish Texas don't, the Spanish in Texas don't really take advantage of cotton. Again, they're not really into the development of cotton in Texas, where the Americans very much are interested in the development of cotton. Because right next door to Texas in Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, these are very, very quickly growing areas in the cotton trade, and they're right next door to Texas. So what happens is that the cotton trade in the US, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, what it does is by the 1820s, 1830s, 1840s, it extends itself into Texas. And this is one of the themes that I want to develop over the next couple of weeks. Now, the other thing that needs to be talked about in this first podcast is that cotton equals slavery. Cotton was picked by slaves. That was the labor force used to pick cotton. Okay, now there were other goods, commodities that were being grown in this area. Sugar was another commodity that was being grown, but I'm going to focus in this course on cotton. So cotton equals slavery, slavery equals cotton. They go hand in hand. They're glove in fist. They are completely congruent, okay? And that's what you have to take from this course. And that's what you should know about American history during this time, especially in the South, especially along the Gulf states. These are very rich cotton growing areas. What was the labor force for cotton? It was slavery. Okay, so that is why slavery becomes such a big deal. And I'm going to talk more about the morals of slavery, the atrocity really of slavery, the incredible human pain and misery it caused. It's a labor force. It's a system that's based on extraordinary violence towards slaves, either actual or potential. And it's a dark, dark stain on U.S. history. But I'm going to talk about more about that later. In this point, I just want to talk about the economics of cotton. As I said before, cotton was the most important commodity during this period, and the folks that were picking the cotton were slaves. First of all, next door to Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas. But ultimately, Texas is going to be enmeshed in the global cotton trade as well.